Have you ever been intimidated by your wife or your husband or your children or your boss or your mother-in-law or somebody? I think all of us have one time or another. That's the subject of this book that we're going to talk about tonight, only it's called Winning Through Intimidation. It's been kind of a controversial book because the subject matter is a little provocative and a little unsettling to people. And with me is Robert J. Ringer, who has written this book. And Bob, the first thing I would ask you is, a lot of times when I see books like this, I figure the guy just wrote the book to make a buck. He picked out a title, he thought of a word that kind of triggers people and says, hey, I can make a lot of money here. Is that why you wrote this book?
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for understating it and saying it's only a little controversial. Secondly, the answer to your question is absolutely yes. My #1 objective in writing the book was to make money. And any one of the now, I guess, millions of people who have read it and hopefully enjoyed it would be disappointed in me if I did not give that as an answer after reading the book, because they understand what I mean when I say when I talk in the book about value for value relationships. Right. I'm selling ideas in exchange for money.
I asked you earlier what your background was, and you said my history is in business failures.
Right.
What did you mean when you said that?
Well, I kind of stole that from Disraeli. Disraeli once said that the real education is adversity, and I think that's really where all of my real education has come from, is in my business failures. I think the successes you don't learn nearly as much from as the failures, because when you fail, when you lose a battle, so to speak, if you're a meditator, I'm kind of an automatic meditator, you sit and analyze what you did wrong, and if you're lucky, it comes to you and you say, aha, that was the point where I made the mistake, and hopefully next time you don't make the same mistake.
Well, basically, what are you saying in this book? I hate to have to capsulize a book, but because of time, we try to. What are you really saying, essentially?
Well, essentially, I'm saying this. First of all, definition of the two words in the title, winning. Winning is obtaining your objective, whether it be friendship, love relationship, making money, religion. It can be whatever you deem it to be. Intimidation is motivation through fear. And in winning through intimidation, I am saying that people are intimidated day in and day out in a variety of subtle forms, in a variety of ways that they don't even realize. They're motivated to do things through fear by their lovers, by their wives, husbands, their children, their parents, teachers, people at the office. It goes on day in and day out.
Right. Well, but that's a normal part of life, isn't it? You're not going to change that.
Well, you can change it for yourself, and yes, it is a normal part of life.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the book, is that I am maintaining that intimidation is a common thread that runs through every facet of life. And for people who are tired of being intimidated and would like to turn the tables around and get more in the driver's seat, so to speak, that's what winning through intimidation is all about.
Okay, what are some quick answers you could tell people if they feel they're being intimidated by somebody? What's a couple of things you can tell them right tonight as they watch you that they might do?
Well, the most important thing is, first of all, you can't even get to first base, and I talk about this in the very first chapter of the book, unless you have the ability to recognize and the courage to acknowledge realities. And the problem with most people is that they either don't know what's going on around them, or they see what's going on around them and they just don't have the courage to acknowledge it. The government, for example, is the all-time master intimidator. Is confiscating our property, has henchman agencies such as the SEC, the FTC, the FCC, the ICC, the IRS. They go on. And we're getting less and less freedom. And anyone who continues to go on saying America is a free country, it's the only country in the world where we have freedom, is just failing to acknowledge the reality that slowly but surely it's being taken away from us. So I would say that the first thing that people have to do is recognize and acknowledge the realities around them. Secondly, if they want to switch roles from being the intimidatee to the intimidator, the first step in doing that is to simply refuse to be intimidated. The next time you start to do something for someone else, say your friend asks you to do a favor for him, and you don't really want to do it, but you do it anyway, and we've all been in that position. You have to ask yourself why you're doing it, and you may find out that the reason you're doing it is you're being motivated through the fear of losing his friendship, but you never thought of it perhaps in that context, and that's what intimidation is all about. We do so many things through fear.
And your point is, if his friendship could be lost because of that, it's not a real good friendship.
Exactly. You beat me to my point. It's exactly the point. You have to weigh a relationship like that, and if you're in a relationship, let's say a love relationship, where you are constantly and consistently putting more into it than you're getting out of it, you really should sit down and analyze, is this really a relationship that's good for you?
Now, let me ask you a question which I don't personally accept, but a lot of people are probably thinking, where does this guy who doesn't have a college degree and says he's a failure, basically, come off to tell us these very deep psychological human relationships and how best to deal? How do you think you do that?
Well, first of all, number one, as far as being a failure, I talk in the book about losing battles and winning wars. I'm not so concerned with losing the little battles along the way. There have been many, many times in my life when I've gained my objective or been a success, so to speak, by my standards, because that's all that matters, is whether I have succeeded by my standards. Right. And many times when I have failed to achieve my objectives, many more times when I failed to. And in a free enterprise system, which we still have partially in this country, I am entering into value for value transactions with people, and I am not saying, waving around a degree, a diploma, or saying I'm a psychiatrist or a psychologist. There's nothing academic about that book. I'm saying that in that book I have some ideas, and I will exchange them with you for your money. And people can enter into that kind of an arrangement or not. Apparently, the people who have read it are satisfied primarily with it because it has now sold 1,200,000 copies in the first 3 weeks that it's been in print and paperback.
Well, you have a test here, a rule of thumb test at the end to find out if you're being intimidated. Do you often wake up in reception rooms and find that you've been sucking your thumb or playing with a yo-yo? 2, are you repeatedly invited to dinner only to discover that you're the first course on the menu? What are you really saying, obviously?
Well, I hate to see you turn to the last page in the book because you kind of give the book away, but what I'm really doing at the end there is going back to my ice ball theory and impressing on people that nothing is all that important, nothing is life or death, and to just calm down, don't be so uptight about every little thing, because you really can't ever get out of the starting gate if you take everything as life or death.
How has this book changed your life, if at all, other than making more money?
It's changed my life in a variety of ways. For example, 3 or 4 years ago, before I wrote the book and when I was in the business world, if I were to appear on a show like this, I would probably come in a coat and tie. I would be doing what I thought others wanted me to do, and I would try to be who others wanted me to be. But what the success of the book has given me most is the freedom to do what I want to do and to be who I really want to be. I don't have to concentrate on a lot of image factors anymore.
Nevertheless, don't you guess that there are a lot of people who don't take you as seriously as they might because of the way you're dressed?
Yeah, and I feel that those are the people who I'd rather not have buy the book because they probably wouldn't understand or appreciate the principles in there. The people who write me letters, and I get hundreds and hundreds of letters, complimentary letters, unsolicited mail for this book, are people who would understand what I just said about why I'm dressed the way I am. The other people would not like the book and would only say bad things about it to other people, and I'd rather have people buying it who are going to say good things.
Yeah. Did my being big intimidate you?
Oh, yes. I'm always afraid of big people.
Well,
I don't know whether they're going to hit me or what.
But I mean in terms of coming on the show, because you mentioned
that question came up in Chicago the other day. Do big guys have more going for them in the way of intimidation, and are they better salesmen and so forth? And I think all other things being equal, probably size is an intimidating factor. I just think it's a natural human instinct to react to size.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I think that's why small people are more defensive, because they're a little apprehensive and they feel called upon to prove something or whatever. Well, they have a name for it, the Napoleonic complex, which I think is valid.
But I notice you have kicking them around.
Well, people who see me on this show, when they see me in person, they say, "Gee, I didn't know you were that big. You don't look that big on the program." And I've always said to myself, why do they always say that? But so I think there is something.
I was noticing you don't look that big on camera. No. I was noticing on the monitor there.
I don't know why. Maybe that's good or bad. I don't know. Anyway, Bob, Winning Through Intimidation is the name of the book. It's of course at your newsstands. And if you says read this book and start winning today. I don't know if that's a hype to sell the book or not, but you've heard the guy who wrote it, so you make up your own mind. You can stand at the thing and read it without buying it anyway and see if it makes sense. So I urge you to at least look at it, perhaps. Bob, thanks for being with us.
Thank you, Joe.
Okay. We'll be right back.